What if the doom of Valyria never happened? Let's get into it. I'm Maester Black, and this is the path the world takes when the 14 flames never rip themselves apart and swallow an entire civilization. No ash-choked sky, no sudden silence where 100 cities used to stand. The freehold endures. Dragons keep flying. And because Valyria lives, everything else changes. Will dragons rule more of the world, or will they stick to what they know? The Freehold of Valyria is a machine built on 4 things: fire, stone, oaths, and slaves. The fire is real, lava rivers threading the 14 flames where the dragonlords built their legend. The stone is fused, making the roads like black ribbons that never crack, and bridges that outlast kings. The oaths bind blood and fire to dragons and to the council of 40 families. And the slaves. The freehold enslaved men and women from all over the world to power the rest. With no doom, that machine keeps humming. Volantis remains the greatest of the free cities, striped with tigers and elephants, forever arguing whether to conquer or to count profits. Qohor still forges the blackest steel. Lee still sells beauty and secrets. Tyrosh and Myr fight over coasts and dies. Pentos lives behind treaties and bribes. Norvos prays with axes. Lorath sinks its foundations into the fog. Meereen, Yunkai, and Astapor, old Ghis's heirs, still hang red bricks and gild them with pride. Braavos, born of runaways, stays quiet in the mist and counts ships. The Rhoynar are mostly gone or scattered. Most fled centuries ago, as they did even in our original timeline. I love saying that. Anyways, a few river towns cling to what the dragons never torched. Across the grass, the Dothraki horse lords still ride. The Dothraki sea is wide and hungry, but it no longer feeds on the old century of blood. That storm never comes. The 14 flames never set an entire civilization to ruin. Valyrian outriders, what we call the dragon riders from lesser houses that you've never heard of, keep the Khalasars wary. When a Khal grows too bold, a shadow falls and remind him that his horses can't fly. In this world, House Targaryen never flees to Dragonstone. They remain what they always were. A mid-tier dragonlord family, respected but not preeminent. They breed dragons with care and navigate politics with even more care. They don't become kings of Westeros. Westeros remains a patchwork, the 7 kingdoms, 7 headaches, because no black wings ever darken Harrenhal's towers or burn the field of fire. But we'll worry about the West later. So, what happens instead? When the cataclysm never comes, Valyria faces something else that kind of makes an old maester chuckle. Fear of the cataclysm anyway. The 14 flames are temperamental. They always have been. Miners and slaves hear stones hum and crack. A dozen omen readers whisper different answers. I sit here and wonder what Daenerys could have been dreaming about. One says the mountain gods hunger and must be fed. Another says sorcery pulls too deeply on the world's stitches. For once, the 40 families agree on something. They cannot afford to be wrong. So instead of standing idle, they act. They call a conclave at Oros, a ring of black seats facing a round pit of smoking earth. Every house with dragons sends a voice, because does the freehold want to listen to any family without status? The older lords arrive layered in pale-scaled mail. The younger ones swagger. The Targaryens send Demian Targaryen, 3rd son, half ignored at home but quick in the saddle, astride a coal-gray dragon named Greyflame.
Close half the fissures,
says a priestess of the flames.
Cap them with fused stone. Ease the world's strain.
Blasphemy,
growls High Dragon Lord Valar Beleris.
The flames are the freehold's heart.
Then slow the beat.
Demian says. His hair is the color of bleached ash. His voice unbothered.
Even a heart can race itself to death.
Scowls, shrugs, but there's sense there. And Valyria loves sense that looks like strength. They pass a decree, cap 7 fissures, restrict the deepest works, ration the greatest spells. Not piety, prudence. A new class of flame lords rises. Engineers with rings of fused black iron. Men and women who tame mountains with math and ritual. The freehold reigns in its wildest magics without losing its dominion. In our original history, tightening came too late. But in this one, it happens in time, and the dragons and culture lives on, for better or worse. Every time the freehold's envoys visit a daughter city, they hear the same plea, said with different smiles.
Ban slavery.
Says a pale magister of Pentos privately.
At least here, it's bad for business in the long term.
Expand it.
Says a tiger triarch of Volantis, publicly.
We were born to rule.
End the fighting pits.
Argues a Lycene banker named Varia Rogare, whose family manages half the freehold's debts.
And sell better dreams instead. Luxury can be shackles of silk.
Keep the pits.
Sneer the great masters of Meereen.
Pride needs teeth, and teeth makes money.
Valyria's answer is careful. They won their empire with dragons, but they keep it with bargains. The 40 families issue the conquered of Oros. Slavery stays lawful. The worst horrors are trimmed. Child soldiers outlawed on paper. Lethal games restricted officially. Branding limited in theory. Freedmen can sue a master in Valyrian courts if they survive the journey. It is not freedom. It is a ledger adjustment dressed as mercy.
Is this justice, Damian?
Varia Rogare asks Demian after the vote.
It's pressure.
Demian says, feeding Greyflame a haunch of beef.
Pressure changes stone. It's slow, but it works. Sometimes.
Sometimes is not enough.
Sometimes is all we get.
Braavos listens from the fog. The secret city buries its rage in coin and spies. It funds manumission quietly, buys bonds with one purse, and breaks chains with another. It knows it cannot fight dragons. Yet. Khal Barco is not the greatest Khal the Dothraki will ever know, but he is clever enough. He has watched Valyrian patterns for 20 summers. Dragon patrols come from Oros, then Volantis, then Qohor, then days of nothing but sky. He dreams of slicing that sky with a scream and turning a dragon's head into a drum. He pushes west with 6 Khalasars, smoke rising behind him as they do what Dothraki are known for, a litter of burned farms and broken caravans. Qohor rings its blackwood gates and calls for help, sending a rider with a banner of flayed horsehair to Oros. Help came. It came fast. It came angry. Demian Targaryen is no one's first choice for hero, which is where every hero starts. He gathers a wing of 6 riders from lesser houses with modest dragons. No colossal Balerians here. Just killers with iron-hard scales and hungry eyes. Alongside him rides Nira Baleris on white ember, lean and fast. Corlys Qoheris on sable wing. 2 Volantine cousins who hate each other more than they hate horsemen. And a quiet woman from Norvos who barely speaks. They find the Khalasa rivers coiling toward Qohor, like brown ropes. When the wind shifts, the dragons smell blood and fear. The Dothraki smell sulfur. Above the grass, Nira's voice cuts the wind.
We hit the flanks, break lines, don't overburn, keep the grass from catching.
Demian nods.
Well then, let's get to work. On me.
Greyflame screams, an iron saw through silk, and drops like an arrow. The first pass is all motion and heat. The dragon's breath rolls across men and horses. The air turns to knives and the temperature rises like a hell on earth. The Dothraki are brave enough to charge the sky, but no charge holds when your horse bolts beneath you. Kalbarko aims his screamers at a single rider, the Norvoshi woman in silent mail on a dragon with torn wings. Smart. Pick the weak link. 20 arrows rise, flight-feathered death. Sable-wing knifes across, intercepting the volley with armor of scales and luck. Corlys takes 2 arrows in the shoulder and laughs like a drunk god.
Again!
He howls.
Again!
They do it again and again, in a pattern so practiced it looks improvised. Dragons wheel like hawks, their fire looking like a scalpel, not a storm. The Freehold drilled these tactics for a century against mountain tribes, rebel slavers, Rhoynish holdouts, and competition when no fight was present. The Dothraki are new to them only in hairstyle and a beastly thirst for blood. In the third pass, Demion spots the Khals' standard, braids wrapped around a spear. He nudges Greyflame with his knees. The dragon folds its wings, becomes a falling sword, then snaps them wide at the last instant. Demion's lance finds the standard-bearer's chest and the spear dips. In Dothraki lore, a dipped standard can be death. The Khal hesitates.
Now,
Demion breathes. White ember blurs past like a thrown moon. Neera's fire washes over the Khal's blood riders, saddles empty. The Khal's horse shies and flips. When he rises, half blinded, Damion's boot hits his jaw. He drops. They don't kill him. They cut his braid and send him east with scars, a living warning. Mercy is policy. A dead Khal becomes legend. A living shamed one becomes a rumor that keeps other Khals awake at night. The Khalasars scatter in smoking threads. Qohor opens its gates to cool the dragons with river water and praise. The city gifts, unsullied to the riders out of gratitude, boys trained to be spears that never dull. Damian refuses.
We didn't come here to trade flesh for flesh.
The words echo in Qohor's heartwood halls for a long time after. Did dragons end the wild hordes? No. Men on horses never vanish. But Khalasars become smaller, meaner, more careful. The Dothraki sea learns to bend around Valyrian patrol routes like water around stone. Without Aegon's conquest, Westeros stays messy. The north is winter and stubbornness. The Vale is high and hard to get to. The Ironborn still raid. The Reach is fat and proud. The Stormlands break themselves on cliffs. The Riverlands drown in their own crossroads. The Westerlands glitter and scheme. Dawn remains thorny and unbowed. Every few years, a Westerosi lord imagines a Valyrian alliance. A generation ago, some river king promised a dragon egg for a marriage contract he could never enforce. In the Reach, a maester writes a treatise on the proper care of a guest dragon that assumes dragons care what you call their pens. The Targaryens don't go. Why would they? The Freehold is the center of the world, not some hard rain-soaked island across the narrow sea. At most, a cousin sails to Dragonstone as a summer retreat with warm caves. Then comes home bored. No burned Harrenhal, no melted swords. The Seven Kingdoms fight their endless little wars with iron, not fire. Does that mean Westeros is safer? Not necessarily. Valyrian merchants play games in ports from Old Town to White Harbor, bidding on spice, wool, and secrets. A Volantine fleet hovers too long off the stepstones. A Lysene Magister tries to buy a Stormland's lord. A Braavosi banker dies suddenly in Lannisport. Balance replaces conquest. Dragons stay a rumor across the sea, and sometimes rumors are worse. Peace under dragons is not peace. It is pressure. Pressure finds cracks. It starts small. Triarch Essos of Volantis, definitely a tiger, even if he dresses in elephant silk, decides 40 families in smoky Oros shouldn't dictate Volantine destiny. He has coin, ships, unsullied, and a nephew who rides a young red dragon named Brightlash. Always count the dragon last. The Freehold taught him that, and still he forgets. Essos whispers to Giscari pride.
Why obey Oros?
He asks Meereen.
Let us lead. We must not be followers of a distant kingdom.
The Meereenese bite. Yunkai and Astapor bite because Meereen bites. Pride is contagious. Lys smiles and pretends to hold both coats while everyone fights. Myr arms both sides and writes no names on the ledger. Volantine galleys and sail sails roll east along the coast, escorting merchants, which is a polite word for squeezing throats. At Valisar, a Volantine cousin imprisons a Valyrian factor and declares temporary sovereignty. In Mantarys, dragon-haunted Mantarys, where the earth breathes poison, desperate nobles reach for old sorceries and write letters they will soon regret. The Council of 40 Families cannot ignore it. They draft a writ, the Edict of Wings. Any city that holds a dragon rider owes first loyalty to Oros. Any city that seizes freehold property does not keep it. Ever. Any city that argues about either will receive a visit. The visit is Damien's wing, now 10 strong. With him fly Nyra on white ember, Corlys with scars now silvered, the quiet Norvoshi with a larger dragon that still has torn wings, and 3 hard-eyed cousins of families that don't like one another. Over them all glides a fat-bellied old blue named Harrow, whose rider is a woman older than most cities. She never speaks unless someone suggests retreat. They cross above Valisar at dawn. Below, Volantine banners chatter in the river wind. Essos' nephew and his red dragon, Brightlash, coils up on the breeze, red and eager. The air thickens with old grudges and hot ambition.
Stand down.
Damien shouts across the sky.
By the Edict of Wings.
You have no valid edict. At least not one we hear.
The nephew calls, and Brightlash opens like a wound. What follows is not poetry. It is work. Dragons are big, stupid, brilliant, cruel, loving. They are flame and muscle doing sums. The riders keep to doctrine. Don't knot in the sky. Don't let fire touch fire. Let the youngest strike last. Never chase a dive for pride. Brightlash tumbles at Greyflame's tail. White ember streaks past like a thrown spear. Harrow simply rises until air turns thin and then stoops, crushing the red like a blue anvil. Brightlash hits the river in a shriek of steam. The nephew follows, armor bubbling, and goes under. Volantine ships break rank. Some beach themselves deliberately to avoid burning. Some never reach shore. Essos does not die that day. He does something worse. He flees, dragging Volantis into a smaller city's politics and losing face so publicly that even elephants smirk behind fans. Oros doesn't remove him. It doesn't need to. The War of 10 Shadows continues in treaties and whispers. Meereen refuses one levy, then pays double the next year, then hires cutthroats to kill the taxman. A Lysine courtesan poisons a Myrish gunsmith who just perfected a new scorpion. A Norvosi beheads a priest and calls it law. Every time the Freehold moves a dragon to enforce rules, it loses a little awe and gains a little fear. The world learns that even dragons are just soldiers if you make them fly often enough. Because Valyria endures, its quiet labs endure too. Not laboratories, pits and towers with runes in the stone and brass tubes hissing steam. Dragon seeds from half-blooded lines are tested for the old gift. Stables grow, change, and sometimes burn. A Targaryen cousin named Rhaella, sharp-eyed, blunt, heads a new project near Illyria. She keeps dragon charts like a maester, weight at hatching, flame color, wing ratio, rider response. She breeds for control, more than size.
I don't need a mountain with wings. I need a sword that listens.
Why not both?
A Belaris lord asks.
Because mountains fall, but swords fly.
Her program yields Greyflame's first clutch. One pale as smoke, one black as wet coal, one oddling with green-tinged fire. Rhaella writes to Braavos for ironwork, to Qohor for chainmail designs that don't scorch skin. to lease for saddlers, who remember that riders have spines. She pays well, and people who hate Valyria still love coin. This is where Essos becomes a breeding ground, not only for dragons, but for dragon solutions. Cities study how to pitch scorpions higher, how to reflect heat with polished shields, how to fight under a dragon shadow without breaking. Some of those answers are bravery, some are treachery. All are human. Does any of this end the slave trade? No. But it changes it. Slavers value loyalty more. They start offering contracts and tiny freedoms to buy it. The pits shrink in Meereen, grow in Yunkai, vanish in places that can't afford the dragon's attention. A new class of bonded workers appears in ledgers, slaves with better names. Braavos gnashes its teeth and saves more people one by one. Pentos outlaws chains in city limits and moves its auctions to river islands with technicalities. It is not a better world. It is a different bad made orderly, which is the kind of bad that lasts. For 20 years, the conclave's caps hold. The 14 flames grumble, but don't roar. Glass candles burn predictable hours. Then Mantarys, foolish, fevered Mantarys, decides to cheat. It reopens 2 sealed fissures to make a miracle metal. Workers die, rocks sing, birds fall from the sky. The ground lifts like a sheet shaken by a giant hand. Not a doom, an event, a warning shot from the earth. The shockwave rattles Oros. Lava pops in the pit and licks the lower seats. For a long breath, everyone thinks, this is it. Then the mountain settles, drunk, but not dead. The Freehold responds the way empires do when scared, with bureaucracy and with fire. Inspectors with black iron rings flood Mantarys. They seal, they tally, they execute 3 nobles for reckless praxis. The 4th noble buys a cousin on the council and lives. They ban 2 classes of spell work entirely. They create a new title, Warden of the Flames, and give it to a humorless woman from Qohor, who scares dragon riders and priests equally.
Don't you see?
Nira says to Damian, looking at the softened horizon.
We keep grabbing the world's nose and wondering why it sneezes. We can't keep pushing the limits of our world with ungodly magic.
Damian rubs Grey Flame's muzzle. The dragon hums like an old furnace.
Then we keep the grip gentle. What else can we do? We can't let go. If we do, everything breaks anyway.
He believes it. He has to. So does everyone who profits from the current order, which is to say, almost everyone with a voice. Once in a long time, the 7 kingdoms look up. A rich king sends an embassy to Oros with gifts, arbor gold, books from the citadel, a steel crown wrought to look like laurel leaves. He suggests a marriage alliance. He suggests a dragon loan for pest control, by which he means a neighbor. The council laughs him out of the chamber politely. Westeros is stable chaos, useful as a market and a buffer. Aegon's dream never comes because Aegon never exists. The prophecy never finds ears to haunt. Rhaella Targaryen, counting hatchlings in Illyria, keeps one eye on westward charts anyway.
We need to know them. Nobody likes a surprise, especially me.
Damian visits Dragonstone one autumn to look at the sea from a different angle. He lands Grey Flame on black cliffs and watches waves punch rock. A boy from Driftmark asks if the dragon will eat him.
Only if you're very rude,
Damian says, smiling. For 3 days, the island smells like salt and hot stone. He flies east again and leaves no banner planted. Westeros remains a rumor's length away. Years pass. The War of 10 Shadows becomes 9, then 8. Names change, patterns don't. Essos dies of an infected tooth. Volantis elects new triarchs and calls the last lot fools while consulting their ledgers. The Dothraki raid further east, not west. Braavos grows rich enough to hire mercenaries who look like accountants and fight like heroes. Demion grows lines at the eyes. Grey Flame grows lazy and thick unless prodded. Nyra takes a student, a quick girl with a scar from a Qohor forge and a laugh like snapped kindling. Corlys retires one winter with only one arm and 100 stories, some of which are true. The Norvoshi woman dies quietly, her dragon howling once and then eating its fill of cattle for a month and refusing riders until it starves. Dragons are not horses. They do not submit to schedules. They grieve on their own timetable. One day, Brightlash returns to the story by another name. A Volantine lordling, not Nessos' line, but ambition copies itself, tries to raise a private wing. He steals 3 eggs from a Lysine vault, hires Qohor smiths to fit saddles, and bribes a Mantarys inspector to look away. 2 eggs hatch. The third rots. Damion leads the seizure. It is supposed to be simple. Confiscate, censure, move on. Instead, he finds boys not much older than squires strapping knives to their legs and calling themselves dragon riders.
This is not the way,
Damion says, spear low. It's the only way that lets us matter, the boldest boy says, and slaps his dragon's neck. The little red rears, just like Brightlash did, eager for a sky it doesn't understand. The fight is short and awful. A baby dragon burns faster than a grown one and screams higher. When it is over, Damion sits on grey stone and stares at his blackened gloves. Nyra crouches beside him.
We saved lives. If this had spread.
We taught them this,
he says quietly.
We taught them dragons mean power, and power means taking what you want if you're strong enough to hold it. And now we're surprised they listened.
What do you want to do, Damion?
Nyra's voice is tired.
Give the world to the horse lords. Return Qohor to wolves. Free the pits and watch Meereen starve because it doesn't know how else to be proud.
He shakes his head.
I want a world where the shadow of our wings makes people feel safe.
That's children's talk.
It's still what I want.
Did dragons end wild hordes? No. But the Khalasars learned the sky has teeth. The worst raids happen where patrols don't go. When a Khal boasts too loud, grey shadows pass, and the next boast is quieter. Qohor never fights its desperate battle against 100,000 screamers in this timeline. It signs contracts with Oros instead, and sends tithe-hardened coin to feed dragons it likes from afar. Did the Freehold stop devouring the world with its own hubris? Sometimes, the Conclave capped the mountains in time. Mantarys tried foolishness and was slapped. Humans paid the price for other humans, as always. The earth shook, and then stopped shaking because men who own the sky learned, for once, to be afraid of what is under their feet. What of House Targaryen? They do not plant a 3-headed dragon on any foreign throne. They do not forge the Iron Throne because there is no Harrenhal to mock. They become instead very good at running stables and meetings. Some of them write treatises on dragon temperament. Some of them get drunk and die in clubs meant for people whose gods are fire. Some of them, like Rhaella, change breeding programs and make dragons more likely to listen, which might be the bravest work of all. Demion grows old. Grey Flame grows slow. And then suddenly, in a single spring, fierce again. They take one last long flight over the Dothraki Sea and watch grass move like inland surf. A Khal rides out below with 200 men, bows unstrung. He looks up and raises an open hand, palm out. Not surrender. A greeting. Damion returns the gesture, and Grey Flame huffs smoke that drifts harmlessly in the high air.
See?
Damion tells Nyra later, chuckling.
Sometimes the shadow means safety.
Without the doom, we don't get legends from ruins. There is no rush of treasure seekers into a smoking grave to die foolishly. There is no century of chaos that forges new orders in blood. There is no Aegon kneeling at the edge of a map and deciding that the mess across the sea should be one kingdom under one chair made of other men's swords. We get a steadier empire of compromises instead. We get dragons like constables, sweeping the roads so caravans keep moving. We get reforms written by men who never mean them and enforced by women who refuse to back down. And the world ratchets half an inch toward decent, and then back a quarter. We get dead boys with dragon burns because power teaches its lessons too well. We get a Dothraki sea that still belongs to the horse, but one that looks up more often. We get the pits smaller, the chains thinner, the paperwork heavier. If you want a moral, here it is. The doom didn't cleanse Essos, nor did it invent evil. Catastrophes don't cure character. Take away the firestorm, and you still have men building rules and then bending them, women carving mercy out of granite, and beasts that love their riders and burn whatever we point them at. In this world, the 14 flames still breathe. The sky is not empty. The shadow of wings still slides across roads of black glass. People look up. Some duck, some cheer, some reach for bows they know won't help. Sometimes the shadow means safety, an old rider once said. Sometimes. And sometimes it means the freehold is watching. And the world, messy, unfair, alive, keeps moving because those watching refuse to blink.